Right, so these are the answers you should have got under your mini investigation. So pathway 1 and 2, hopefully you've had a bit of research. You're welcome to watch the video as well if you want to. Pathway 3 and 4, hopefully you've watched the video. I think the video doesn't give you an answer for soils, so this will give you an answer for it. So climate-wise, in terms of their normal weather conditions day to day, you should have had that essentially it's very warm and it's very moist and very wet. The temperature is quite consistent, so it would be the high 20s pretty much every day all year round. It doesn't really vary very much at all. The warm temperatures all year round mean that you get regular rainfall. So most rainforests will have rainfall every day, and what normally happens is your sun comes up in the morning, it warms the rainforest, it causes a massive evaporation, and then by the afternoon so much evaporation has happened from the morning that you then get enough clouds to have rainfall. So the normal weather pattern in the rainforest is hot and sunny in the morning, and then it will suddenly chuck it down with rain in the afternoon. So you get, again, a consistent amount of rainfall throughout the whole year. So every day in a rainforest is pretty much the same. It's hot and it's wet and it's going to rain in your afternoon. In terms of vegetation, the sort of things you should have got from this is that there is a large amount of vegetation in various different layers. So everything from the tallest trees that end up being 50 metres high to a good ground covering vegetation too, and everything in between. And you'll get climbers that climb up trees, and you'll get things that leech off other plants and grow too. And there's a massive variation in the amount of plants too. So in terms of, this links to the bottom one in terms of biodiversity, the vegetation amount will be very high, and the amount of variation in types of vegetation will also be high. So you'll have a high biodiversity of plants. And all biodiversity means is how diverse the range of vegetation is. So if you went into a forest in the UK, for example, you'd see brambles and ferns and oak trees and ash trees and beech trees and a few others. There isn't much diversity at all. You'll tend to see the same sort of things no matter which UK forest you go to. If you go to a rainforest, however, you could walk through a section of rainforest and see hundreds and hundreds of different plants. It's very, very different. And because it's such a fast growing environment, it's got so many sort of nutrients, it's got such good climate for growing vegetation. So it's warm, it's wet, it never runs out of heat and water. It enables lots of variation of plants to grow. And they've all adapted in their own little way, and we'll look at vegetation adaptations in another lesson. Soils wise, people always assume that a soil in a rainforest is really, really fertile. There must be loads of nutrients in it because it's got so many trees. It's actually not the case. The soils are actually very poor. The reason for that is, as soon as anything dies in a rainforest, so as soon as the leaves fall from the trees, because it's really warm and wet, they decay really quickly. So the bacteria will get in there straight away and start to decompose and decay that material. And so say that is a leaf and it's been decayed, before it even really gets a chance to go into the soil, it's already had those nutrients taken up by a tree, because there are so many plants that need so many nutrients that the nutrients don't get a chance to really go into the soil. So actually the soil ends up quite poor, even though there's tons of plants there. So that's one that kind of bucks a trend that people assume it's nice and fertile. It's not, because the nutrients just don't get time to get there. And then biodiversity. So biodiversity of plants, we've already mentioned, is really, really high. We get tons and tons and tons of different types of plants. But biodiversity in general is really, really high in a rainforest. We get so many different species of birds and insects and reptiles and mammals. It is one of the most biodiverse places in the entire planet. So again, biodiversity for everything in a rainforest is incredibly high. One of the most biodiverse places in the world. And again, the video, if you watched it, will tell you how many different species of snake there are. I don't even know there were that many species of snake, let alone just that biodiversity in a rainforest. So again, if you want to have a bit of a research further into that, it's really quite interesting how biodiverse those places are. The extension bit at the bottom here suggests why biodiversity is so high in tropical rainforests. I've kind of touched on already. It's because they've got such a really good climate for growing. It's warm and it's wet. which means that loads of vegetation can thrive there, and they've adapted over the years to different parts of the rainforest. And because you get loads of different variety of plants, you also get a variety of different animals and things that then feed off of different types of plants. It's such a complex ecosystem that just so much can thrive there, and yet it's mainly just due to its climate and the amount of biodiversity of vegetation that you get the biodiversity of the animals and things too. Again, hope that helps with that one. Fill in any blanks that you didn't get yourselves for those 4 different sections. Any more questions, give me a shout.